Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Shawn and Sus show, where today we'll be drafting a couple eliminators, talking about some of the strategy for it, and just kind of, seeing how best ball summer's going for the both of us. Shawn, how's it going, my man?
Doing good. Been studying a lot of these metrics. The rabbit hole with QBs on these different stats is a lot more than advertised. It's not just passing yards and touchdowns. It turns out it takes a whole team for a QB to succeed, from line to receivers to coach, and kind of breaking that down into pieces to chop in and find edges, especially the late QBs. I think there's a lot of room for price inefficiency. We know Lamar, Allen, those types are studs, but from QB 10, 11 on, it feels like the Wild West to me. So that's been my latest.
So, have you been looking into quarterback build type stuff, or more of the individual player archetypes and like which guys seem like a value relative to ADP and which guys seem maybe not so good compared to ADP?
More of the value side. It's a little easier to explain, at least to see if I'm drafting a backup quarterback. Of course, if you draft an elite QB, you're getting 10, 11 weeks out of that, usually, of top 5 play. So you can cruise a little bit on that. But if you go outside of the top 4 or 5, then you're kind of splitting it closer to down the middle. And especially in something like Eliminator, if you pick Lamar Jackson, he has one bad week or he twists an ankle and your backup stinks, then season's over.
Yeah, see ya.
So yeah, from an evaluation standpoint, now the rabbit hole is quite deep, but what I've been looking at, we talked about it. We were on a shout out Nick Bach. We were on a stream yesterday, and one of the players that came up was JJ McCarthy. A lot because of how he is as a prospect, but also because the setup for Minnesota is as live as it gets. Like they've been like a QB factory in terms of production, but this is supposed to be the best line that they've had. Hawkinson is in year 2 off his injury, and I believe his first year he was a trade or something. This is like the most Hawkinson ready year, so right. He is in like prime position. And Drake May too. I'm really excited for Drake May, because basically it was whatever the opposite of that is like what Drake May had. No receivers, no line, coaches all over the place. Now it's year 1, so I don't want to crap on Gerard Mayo or anything, but
I still have a hang up though about the New England offense. I can't put my finger on what it is exactly. Maybe it's Josh McDaniels. I don't know, but there's something about the New England situation. I don't know if their offensive line is going to be that good. Do you have a read on that?
They're at least not going to be garbage, according to Mike Clay, but that's the hope. Sometimes that's wrong. I actually think line, it's something that I've realized is that line is 5 of 11 players on the field. And what percent of the discourse do you think line gets in discussions? Maybe 5?
Not half. Yeah, right.
So that's something I think, even as simple as looking at their PFF grades and waiting an average for a few years, looking at a few injuries, it just seems like there's half the field we're just not paying attention to, which is mind-boggling. And that goes for coaching as well, because sometimes you have 5 decent offensive linemen, but the coach has a history of whatever, not pass blocking, not bringing guys in to protect and such. And it just seems like just a lot from a base logic of, look, there's 11 players on the field, and if you don't care about 5 of them, that doesn't seem very smart, especially in a world of smart people that were grinding through minicamp clips and crazy scenarios, college tape, all of these things, and half the NFL field is left out to dry. I'll pull up Mays. Let's see what Mike. So Mike Clay's the most initial one that I have.
We just saying, we popped in a draft. We pulled the 111 here in the Eliminator. 20-second clock. We'll be starting in 15 seconds. Yeah, the New England thing is interesting, man. It is good to know that their offensive line's improved. Hopefully, Stephon Diggs and Kyle Williams are an improvement. I don't think they're locks to be like mega contributors, but the routes are going to be there. The opportunity is going to be there for them. I just hope that, 31-year-old Stephon Diggs coming off an ACL has real juice, not just like training camp, running around juice, but like real NFL juice. Kyle Williams has some things in his prospect profile I like, some things I don't. Hunter Henry, just kind of a guy at this point. Really, I'm pretty excited for Travion Henderson as a real life player, but he feels like more like a committee back. There's some like intriguing nuggets there, and Drake May can maybe take this group of whatever guys kind of far. But I know people are like, oh, he could be a top 5 quarterback this year. Not that you're necessarily,
Top 5
but
is,
I'm
yeah,
hearing that a
that's
lot.
rich.
And I'm like, to get like a top 5 quarterback season, you usually need that offensive line to either be stellar or the weapons to be crazy or the coach to be like, oh, this is like a genius. I don't think we have any of those 3 things in this scenario.
Top 5, I think, is stretch. I think there's a very entrenched sort of first class of quarterback. Once you kind of go past, let's say 5 to 7, then I think he could get up to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's no reason in my book that he can't do what Bo Nix did last year. And the other thing with May, it's kind of, you don't think of it, but May was one of the best running quarterbacks, and pro rated, he was probably about Kyler Murray in terms of production and quantity. Now Murray's a really good, efficient runner.
Okay, so we're on the clock here. How do you feel about Derrick Henry and then maybe one of the wide receivers, or do you want 2 of these receivers or a receiver first?
I would go Derrick Henry. He's just such a stud, and we skipped over him on Nick Box stream. We got to pay some respects to the GOAT here.
Exactly, even it out. He's got a fun bye week. I like the week 7 bye week because only 2 teams have it, the Bills and the Ravens. So it's a good place to start. Are you Nico Collins here or something else?
I'm fine with Nico, or if you like Achane as a double.
Which way do you want to go? I'm down for either.
Either. So actually Nico at this price, I would say. Stroud, I'm a little worried about. If I missed our pick, I mean we had our auto pick, so it's all good. But I'm a little worried about Stroud, but Nico's such a good receiver that in weeks between some of these elite guys, do you push them in terms of the bye week? Like you look at Lad is 12, AJ's 9. Do you do some of that 50-50, or you're just thinking, I'm trying to build a team for the long haul, and as long as I'm not stacking bye weeks, I'll be fine?
So I still like Nico. I hear what you're saying about Stroud. It is kind of a weird shoulder thing. They're pretty vague on it. And I'm not saying it's like a CMC situation from last year, but sometimes when they like don't give you a lot of information, I just make a little mental note like, okay, this is like a situation I'm going to monitor. Because it's not good that they can't really tell what's going on and that they're being vague. But I think Nico's such a dog that no matter what they have at quarterback, it could be just like a Brian Thomas from like late last year's situation where it's like, well, if everything else fails, you just throw to Nico Collins and that will make the offense go burr. But, I'll be optimistic and say Stroud works out. In the second round, I'm definitely pulling up the running backs a little bit more than I otherwise would. They project better simply than a lot of these receivers. After Nico, I get the bull case for Drake London. So if you want to include him in that tier as well, fine. I have plenty of questions about Ladd McConkey, and especially in the Eliminator, where if a guy misses a week or 2, that's not good. And I think Ladd ran pretty well on injuries last year, but he has he's a smaller guy and he has a history of soft tissue injuries. There's just sometimes like a little bit of like
it feels like everything went right for him.
Yeah,
a little bit at that price. I would agree. And the one player from that group I'd add is AJ Brown is just such a stud. It's kind of, it almost feels, whatever the pro version of prospect fatigue feels like it's set in on AJ Brown. He's a year off of, I think he missed a few games last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, missed a couple.
And he was before that a locked and loaded 1,400-yard. Line's going to be elite. Jalen Hurts is very good in clean pocket situations. And he had a few injuries, ankle, a concussion, a finger injury, I believe. So AJ is someone that's super live, and I'm totally cool with at 15, 16, taking him there.
No doubt about it. And, realistically, he's going to probably split the difference of the 1,400-yard years and last year with like 1,070 because they are going to be more run heavier than they were 2 years ago, but probably not quite as run heavy and will hopefully be healthy. So I feel like he's like a really solid bet for like 1,250 yards, which is like that's a great season. How do you feel about Tyreek here?
Are you worried about the wrist?
I'm not particularly. It seems like
I'd
pretty
find an 80.
standard.
Yeah.
It feels like kind of procedural, like, they cleaned it, like people are like, oh, they went in and like took plates out. And it's like, that's good. That means like the wrist is stable and like they could like go forward without them. So,
would you go Jaden here or pull up one of the running backs? I guess we'll find out after.
I would probably be a Jaden or Devontae guy. Because James Cook, I can't do with the week 7 bye for Henry.
Oh, that's right.
And then like double Texans, I don't know. I'd be into DJ Moore. How do you feel about like Devontae, DJ Moore, Chuba? Anything else?
I guess is Hurts too high of a reach? I mean, Devontae is fine in this group. Devontae and Moore are very close for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either preference?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go Devontae.
It's tricky in these 30-second drafts.
And yeah, it's like a unique little combo, Tyreek and Devontae on the same team. That's a little unique, I think. And all our buys are different, so that's good. I think people really they kind of get the bye week importance, but they don't fully get it. Like I'll see people have their RB1 and their wide receiver 1 have the same bye, and they're like, all right, well, it's fine. I'll just it's like, oh, really think about it. Really sit down in week 8, and you don't have your RB1 and your wide receiver 1. Are you really going to beat a team that probably has both of them? Statistically speaking,
it definitely shows we're in June and the season was ended about 5-6 months ago. Because once you're really in it, you start looking at the projections. If you're doing season long, a lot of people that watch this is going to be their first year. The transition, they've probably done season long, and now they're going into. And when you think about your practical season long team, and when it's a week by week basis, like people don't like that in season long to have 1 week that's a total nuke. And we've dealt with bye weeks in our season longs, and balancing that out is huge when you have to win every single week. Now, of course, you could get some pod luck and get lucky, but that's not the process that we're going for here. And then in terms of going more wide receiver, I think running backs a bit deeper at the 18 to 22, 23 range. So what are you thinking? A couple running backs?
Yeah, I don't want to get too carried away with a hero running back build here. I think we would definitely, within reason, look at running back with one of our next 2 picks. The board's looking a little green at the moment. I'd love to see that. Hopefully we can get a wide receiver run here. Because the projectable points at running back are so key. Like if we could get any of these 5 guys here, even James Conner, I'd be pretty pumped on.
Oh, I like him a lot. His efficiency numbers are quite good.
And if we end up double tapping running back here, that's also totally fine with me.
That's the ideal, I think, unless.
Dude, we're running pure right now. Come on.
Sheesh.
Someone take Burrow. Someone take George Pickens. This would be so brutal if all 5 of these running backs ripped, dude. I would crash out.
And Waddle's too much of a correlation, right? Because the Dolphins are kind of an up and down team.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Kamara, okay.
I think if you go Waddle, you definitely want to get Tua because you're just saying this offense is nuking and you're going to ping pong to an extent.
Okay, so we're getting at least one of them. I was
Thank God.
a little temporary anxiety there where
Now, how do you rank these guys? I would probably say K-Walk would be the pick just because it's a unique ADP faller.
Yeah, at
And
ADP, Harvey is really, really nice. Well, I guess decision made.
the room makes the
So
choice. And do we want to think through our next pick where we would kind of lean?
I'm fine with Montgomery or Henry. Montgomery's going to lose some with the rag now, unless you're really into Tate Ratledge, which I don't have a strong opinion on.
I
You're
agree.
thinking Waddle here, or is Burrow naked?
Let's see what we got running back wise. There's always a Tony Pollard pull up. These receivers as well.
Oh, Waddle feels well. We have 3 guys though, because Waddle, it feels like that's a pretty heavy drop after that.
Yeah,
we'll see if he takes him. Then, if Waddle's gone, I'm not into Juwan that much. I'm just worried about it. Do you think Waddle, or do you think it's too game correlated?
How do you feel about Judy, Olave, Debo? Or sorry, Judy or Olave, Addison? No, sorry. More so Olave, Judy. We'll queue up Waddle, I guess. I would say Waddle or Judy, though. Any of those guys?
I'd probably say Waddle with that group, or Pollard.
But, sounds good.
Yeah,
we got to get 2 on this team, but it's a fun. I kind of don't mind that ping pong at those prices. It's
Tyreek fell a lot. I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah, we get each of them. One half a round past ADP, another one we didn't have to pull up. We probably won't take another week 12 bye at running back or wide receiver. I want to come up with like a formula for like how I do the bye week math. It's like just like all these moving parts in my mind, but I'm like, there's some formula I think that's probably optimal for allocation. I would probably call it a day at week 12.
Yeah, and by the time you get to week 12, you hope maybe I'm thinking this live. If you have later buys, you can kind of backtrack with some rookies, because rookies are going to be more late season clicks. Veterans are going to be more early season clicks. So if you have more early buys, you would have more veterans. And if you have more late buys, you have more rookies. That would be the first point of analysis there. Of course, some of these ambiguous backfields, it's you want to just.
I also like the double stack more if I think the offense has room to gain. Like last year, Tyreek was the 3rd or 4th pick, and Waddle was a 2nd round pick. Now you're getting them at the 3-4 turn and the 5-6 turn, which is really just going to come down to is Tua healthy, and can the offensive line protect Tua a little bit to let the plays develop? And if they can, then we get some great value here. Then I'm into it in the Eliminator. Whereas like in BBM, I'll buy, a pair of guys a little closer to their ceiling. I still don't love it as much, like we talked about yesterday with like Puka and Devontae on the same team. But like I'll do like a Chase Burrow in BBM all day. Or sorry, a Chase Higgins Burrow all day. But in this, I would never do that. But we're getting some room to run with this offense for sure at the price of Tyreek and Waddle.
Yeah, these aren't our main guys either. Yeah, because if it was Puka, Devontae, that's probably your 1-2.
Yeah, and you're just not giving yourself much room to be a super team at that point. You're buying the peak, damn near. Got some interesting names potentially.
Probably lock up a 3rd running back here, right?
Yeah.
As much as I don't love Pacheco, I like him at price. I do like Shakir a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel strongly about like a Hawkinson or.
Pacheco is probably like not even thank God in because in this
so you don't like him. That's cool.
He's also like for the Eliminator. Like I love the guys who catch some passes to like give you a floor. It's like
for game script. Okay, is there anyone you're leaning here?
I don't think we can do week 12 with B-Rob. I mean, Jaden Reed is a fun spike boy. Are you a Matthew Golden guy or a Jaden Reed guy?
I guess either one. It's a total ambiguous situation. I guess Golden has the draft capital. Reed is closer to an Alec Pierce type of guy in terms of deep.
He snapped those off. How do you feel about Jalen Warren as a pass catching back? Aaron Rodgers just boomer dumping it off to him.
What about Mason, or is that too high of a reach? Warren is fine. Warren's fine.
Okay. I'm warming up to the Warren click. I also think there's like just a chance that we're like getting a little too excited about a 3rd round rookie over a guy who couldn't you see like Arthur Smith's like boomer ass and like Aaron Rodgers' boomer ass just being like, yeah, put the vet out there who's like got some juice. I'm warming up to Jalen Warren a little bit.
Najee was a little bit better. Caleb Johnson did catch 20 passes his uh, penultimate season, I think junior. He came out as a junior. Najee was a better receiving back than we give credence for. You think because he's big, he's just kind of like a big plotter, but because he's a good receiving back, he took some of that time away from Jalen Warren. Warren has years ahead of Caleb Johnson in terms of the scheme. And last year, Aaron Rodgers was second in targets to running backs in the entire NFL. So that makes him a little more inclined to throw down to the running backs because that's a very much a personal preference. And especially as an older quarterback that's not extending plays, he's just going to throw it out to Warren a little more than often. Or if they're nervous about the offensive line, they'll have to creatively scheme him up. Or if you think the Steelers are going to stink, which is a decent mentality, then that's going to open him up a little bit more.
And when it comes down to guys like Pacheco versus Jalen Warren, I know Pacheco might project for more like rushing yards and all that. We'll see how it all plays out. But in the Eliminator, so much of it is like if you go super wide receiver, like you just need usable scores at running back. You don't need like the crazy outcome. And Jalen Warren's gonna like exactly, and Warren's gonna like buoy you like with a lot of those like 3 receptions for 30 yards games, along with his like rushing, and just like churn out a bunch of like 10, 12-point games. Whereas Pacheco is gonna be like more like 4 points and then like 17 points, depending on how the touchdowns fall. I worry about Pacheco's pass catching ability.
And they
I think he could have
for a reason.
I think he ends up with like a lot of like 12 carries, 46-yard games, no touchdowns, and that's like, damn, dude. Like if it's not a Henry week, Henry's like our boom
matchup. I think he's in a lot of trouble. Or if they're losing games, they're not a lock. The Bills are projected for the most wins. The Chiefs will win games, but they were really good in close games. So they'll probably be close to a 2 or 3, 4 seed. But that along the way in an eliminator, that means Pacheco can go for 2 points and they just pass it if they're getting even a decent opposition line and opposition defense. And they lost Joe Thuney to the Bears, so there's going to be a bit of work to see if this is a run blocking offensive line or they got to just spread it out and run short passes. Rashi being back also makes you less inclined to run heavy because you can have low turnover, safe plays to 2 targets. Kelsey, who just went, and Rashi. So there's definitely risk. I think for a longer season-long tournament, I like Pacheco a bit more, but in this format, I'm totally with that.
Yeah, we get Henry and Walker as like our boom bust touchdown guys, and Warren's like our safety blanket, like in case they have a off week or get hurt. He's kind of just holding us down with a respectable score, and I think we can layer in some more guys like that.
What do you think here we're in a pig?
Quarterbacks can really rip off. I kind of like the Caleb value. I don't care as much about stacking.
Totally cool with that.
He just feels like a great points per game guy. And you like look at like some of these later ADPs, like Gino goes earlier, Bryce goes earlier, like all these guys kind of get pulled up. I think we lock up Caleb and then grab something else on the way back.
Yeah, that makes sense because Caleb's going to get a better line, better coaching. Ben Johnson has made Jared Goff into one of the better quarterbacks for fantasy. Caleb had, I think, 499 rushing yards and 0 touchdowns. So that's not a great bet to stick.
Are you a Scatabo guy? How do you feel about Evan Ingram if we wanted to do a 2 tight end thing?
He John feels like too heavy stacked, right?
I think too heavy, yeah.
I do like Mark Andrews in that trio. Or
we already got Henry, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then feel free. I'm not a huge – I guess we could get it.
Okay. Ingram feels like a good projectable volume. Just kind of hold it down. Again, like a steady Eddie. Higgins and Igbuka are like terrible, picks in this format to me. Scatterbo,
Yeah.
arguably, possibly as well, because he might not be good and he might be a slow starter. Johnu I'd be into, but we have too many Dolphins. And like
Yeah.
once you bet
Yeah.
on Tyreek and Waddle, you kind of like
Yeah.
you're
You
getting
can't overdo it.
and Henry with Andrews. I just don't want my my RB1 out the same week as my tight end one. Um, and they kind of like I guess they could both get a bunch of touchdowns, but I'm getting a little worried about Mark Andrews in the sense that like there's like some real Isaiah Likely glaze and like I
There's a lot of mouths to feed, and Hopkins kind of he can still play. Like he doesn't move around like he used to, but when he does throw the ball, like they were throwing back shoulders and contested catch stuff to Hopkins in the Super Bowl. So he might be a little inconsistent. I do like him at value for these longer tournaments. I'm a little newer to Eliminator, but the up and down nature of this offense because there's so many weapons. Lamar is just going to go off this year. There's so many guys: Bateman, Zay Flowers, Hopkins, Andrews, likely. Even Tez Walker's down there, but I mean that's 5 guys. So
yeah, and it wouldn't shock me if like Harbaugh's talking about like I expect Isaiah Likely to be like a Pro Bowl caliber player. It's like I don't think Harbaugh's like naive. I think Pro Bowl caliber player could mean that depending on how camp goes and how like the competition goes, I think he's like saying in so many words to Likely like you could end up being our tight end one this year. Um,
as a
and,
pure
and
wide receiver, because he can't block for
right,
nothing. So
yeah,
as a pure wide receiver, he totally could. Now this is Tua range because we're getting like QBs,
yeah,
unless you want to push into 134.
yeah. I'd be down the push. He also is just such a worse projectable bet than Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence. But from a
Yeah.
health perspective,
Well, we have
I don't know.
Tyreek and Waddle.
Yeah. Hmm. Anything else standing out to you, running back wise, receiver wise,
Well,
for the
some Ray
first pick?
Davis, Tajay, if you think that the Titans are going to lose games.
The
There's
other
Tank.
the other
Manson's
option I was gonna say maybe is do we just double tap quarterbacks here, like Love and then
great.
Tua?
I'm fine with that in this format. If you think these guys are kind of middling talents, I do like Loveland, but
You like Love or Lawrence more? Oh, I guess we would do
I would say
Lawrence because
Love easily.
we have a week 5 by it with Caleb.
Okay. Yeah, never mind.
I think we can do Lawrence and then
Yeah, I had
Tua.
that last night in my pug. Penix fell as the third quarterback, like 3 rounds below his ADP, and then that's for a season long. So I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah, to check those buys, it's very, very important.
Yeah, because this range is kind of beat like Tajay Spears. Like, what do we win when we win with Tajay? All right, let's lock up Tua. We're going to start a bit of a quarterback run here, and then we can maybe get some running backs and some other
Yeah.
stuff back we like. And I'd warming up more and more to, if you don't get an elite like a Josh Allen or a Jaden or a Lamar in this, I think you need 3 quarterbacks probably.
I think post from 6 or 7 on, it's definitely looking that way because there's a very clear first class of guys because if you look at all of the rushing metrics, a lot of the passing metrics, there's just a very small group that leads everything. There are a few guys that creep up here and there, but it's really have elites or not, and then the 3 you can mix in because Tua has a lot of spike weeks, which will help as the third guy, and we stack with them. And
100%.
Lawrence will fill for buys and such, and Caleb I think will be better later in the season. Lawrence
Yeah.
has a little more immediate value there.
He's got some rushing to him. With like these 3 guys, you always feel like you're going to get a 20-something point week. You feel like really pretty good about that if they're all healthy.
So 14 picks away because I was going to say Tank's right there.
That would be sweet. We'll manifest that real quick.
Tanker in this range, I have so much Rico that Hurt said that he's a 1B and no one cares for some reason. And Dave
Yeah,
Canales wants to run the ball.
Was there like some coach speak about him, or is it just like
Yeah,
the
I
fact
remember
that he
he's
is?
mentions that Rico was a 1A, 1B scenario, but sometimes they do say that. Like, I think Liam Cohen said the same.
No, I'm totally on board with that. Yeah, I don't get the Rico price. I have like way more than I thought I did when I was checking my exposures. He just I think he's like a pretty solid player, and that's a very valuable role. Um, I'm not really worried about Trevor Etienne at all, and I think you get some standalone with the upside. It's like, what's the real difference between like the Rico Dowdle bet and like, I guess it's a little different than like a Scatabo, because I guess you could say, but I don't think like Scatabo could ever run away with the job and bury Tyrone Tracy. But whoever loses the Giants battle between Tracy and Scatabo is going to be like the 35% back. That's like Dowdle. So um, Dowdle's going to give you points, and he's going to give you crazy upside too.
Yeah, and 1 year, $6 million. You don't sign that to just sit and grab some bench. Eckler's nice as a receiving back. His yak over expected as a receiving back has been really good throughout his career. Like the narrative that he's washed is overblown to me. And Tank is here. I mean, wow, we did manifest that live. Look at that.
Let's go, Tank.
Put that in the next Law of Attraction movie. So
astrology's real.
I'm fine taking Eckler over Rico here. I have them pretty even, but Rico's been going like Rico in normal formats is in the 170s, and that's to me is insane.
Yeah.
Rico was pretty good as a pure rusher in Dallas. 1 year, $6 million is not to be some guy catching bench and just praying that Chuba gets hurt.
You're a good Eckler here?
Yeah.
Sweet.
And then for me, the Eckler thesis is he was very efficient as a receiving back. The offense is pretty good. It's a good environment. As you see a guy is efficient over the offseason, they study this stuff. And they say, you know what, let's take some pressure off Jaden Daniels. We don't want him to lead the league by far in scrambles because he's a smaller build, and we want him to be here for 15 years, not 2 years. And let's get the ball to Eckler a little bit and take pressure off.
He's just another one of these like Jalen Warren types where it's like they're setting a floor for you too. Like you don't want to have these weeks where like your running back 2 has 4 points. Like you're cooked. You're probably cooked. You could get pod luck. There might be some crazy pod luck with this 1v1 format this year, but I want to set myself up for higher floors. People are like, oh, you got to build a super team because you got a sun run like the luck. It's like, I don't know, man. I want like a team that can like regularly score like 120 to 140, 150. I don't need to be like trying to hit 180 every week and just hope that a bunch of those really well structured, pretty solid teams, one of them gets the crazy pod luck. 1 out of 150 will get the pod luck.
Yeah, and these fun players are getting overclicked a bit. Tank went 11 picks below ADP or 12. Eckler 8 picks below ADP, and the Tank power runs, good as a pure runner, and in an ambiguous backfield could easily get you decent clicks there.
We're going to get answers
there,
in July.
And Eckler's just a boring guy who just falls below what he should be.
We're going to get some answers in July about how the Pittsburgh and the Jacksonville backfields are shaking up, and there's a decent chance we get some pretty crazy closing line value with these guys where these prices might not be available 6 weeks from now.
Totally. And on the Eckler point a little bit too is some of these guys on receiving, if you don't see the rushing, you think these guys do nothing. But not too long ago, I think it was like 2-3 years ago, maybe, at least in full PPR, Nyheim Hines pulled a top 20 season. And I think Eckler's a little better than that. So there's definitely upside there. And the Colts don't have the offensive environment that Washington does. And the amount of rushing touchdowns, rushing load. Oh, our guy Alec Pierce is gone. So who are you thinking about here? What about a second tight end too? We only have Ingram.
Got a second tight end. Yeah. How do you feel about Mason Taylor, Otten?
I would say Mason.
I agree. I'm with you.
Mason a slight over on in Eliminator. You could justify the other way around.
You could
go two. You could go two.
He projects pretty well for volume. Ingram and Mason Taylor, that's just going to hold you down for some really good volume, and then we can, figure out how we want to do it with. I think there's some pretty fun receiver names here.
And it's kind of backfill on quantity.
Yeah. So I think Darius Slayton is like such a good pick in this format.
Yeah.
Also his week 14 bye, because these other guys are going to be slow starters if they do anything, and Slayton seems pretty locked into two.
Russell Wilson, probably the week 1 starter, ready to go. Slayton total smash. That's easy for me as well, because he's the boring guy in this group. He's had the role. If anything happened to Neighbors, he's popped. They signed him to a multi-year extension. From memory, they didn't draft anybody to compete with them. So it's a pretty stable room, pretty stable role. And with a Russell Wilson right away, they'll at least get garbage time at minimum.
And, we have so much star power in this receiver room. Nico, Tyreek, Devontae Adams, Waddle, Jaden Reed. Like, we got star power. We don't need to, take a risk. I guess there's a couple of trains of thought. One is, you could, really hunt for upside and try to get, the next Puka. It's okay. Or I could, if one of these guys realistically misses a week or 3, because one of them will, I've got my bases covered with just reliable routes, and I let my superstars do the heavy lifting.
Absolutely. And Waddle and Reed are more of the explosive, funner type of clicks as well. Waddle is very up and down, as is Jaden Reed. Tyreek is more floor. He's really the alpha of the offense when he's healthy. And Slayton feels like more of a cover for them. And a late bye week is just such an asset in this format.
So as we look at it, if we were in a BBM, I would be more inclined to go 7 receivers and 3 tight ends. In this, I'm open to interpretations, but I lean 8 receivers, because you really week 12, it's going to be Nico, Devontae, Jaden Reed, Slayton. Just looking at how much the positions matter, injury rates. I spam receivers in this contest.
Yeah. We also have a double stack here too, which matters. Tua is a bit up and down, and sometimes really it's just if they face teams that aren't the Buffalo Bills, or they're pretty good, but once the Bills come to town, it just all goes to hell, basically. So I'm totally with you there.
And that's where the Ingram and Taylor archetypes help us out, where it's they're going to give us every week out of one of those guys, we're getting at least 7 points. And so, the other team might have a pretty good tight end score sometimes. Okay. We'll sometimes get 14 from one of these guys, but we're going to bury them at running back, one of our 3 quarterbacks, and receiver star power. Any of these receivers stand out to you as routes guys? Tyler Lockett, Jalen Coker.
Lockett's the most, if you want to go boring, Lockett. Coker's the funnest click of the group.
Which one would you like to do first, if you have a preference?
I'd say Lockett. If it's kind of to further the Slayton thesis, it just seems like he's locked in as the second guy over there.
I think so. It's so boring and gross, but it just kind of seems like reality. It's also starting to seem like Yoshi Voss has more of a lock on the wide receiver role in Cincinnati. He was big on my team last year that made the finals.
If you want to go with him,
I hate him in BBM, but he just randomly scores a touchdown here and there, and those 12 points hit your lineup a lot. There's also Coker, but I kind of like chasing the touchdown equity, maybe with Yoshi Voss.
That's cool. Or Tolbert's interesting too, but if you want to put Yoshi, that's fine. I don't want to.
MVS.
No, I was about to say, that goes, that kind of does everything we just talked about for less than 5 minutes. So
Yoshi Voss had 479 and 6 last year. which is like you take the 6, man. That 6 hits your lineup in the Eliminator.
The other thing too is this doesn't get talked about because T. Higgins was basically last year. If you had T. Higgins on your team, or to have close to a championship or championship team, you needed T. Higgins because he went absolutely off in the playoffs. But he's missed a lot of time.
Yeah,
and someone's got to fill that role, and it's probably Yoshi.
it is. And I'm like he had the worst PFF grade in the league last year, but we're talking about like a high flying offense that we don't have any exposure to. I have no doubt in my mind that if Joe Burrow's healthy, that they're going to be top 3 in pass yards. And there's going to be a lot of touchdowns to go around. And Jamar Chase can't get 20 of them. T. Higgins can't get 15 of them, most likely, if Jamar Chase is getting a bunch. So some are going to trickle, to the forgotten about guys that the defenses aren't keyed in on. And so, whereas like Yoshi Voss, like I never think he's going to give me like a 22-point game in BBM that's like worth anything to me. For the Eliminator, these disgusting like Jalen Naylor, Yoshi Voss guys, much more appealing to me.
It's true. And with an injury prone guy ahead of him, and they're not going to trust Burton right away. T. Higgins could easily just tweak something, and the Yoshi teams are just crushing this format. Because that's the thing, as I looked into it, T I think has missed. I'll look this up to be sure, but I believe he's missed at least 5 games the last 2 years, which is pretty high at that price. For BBM, you have to. Yeah, missed 5 games both of the last 2 seasons. That is not insignificant. And the guy who crushes in that scenario is Yoshi.
100%. So, with that draft in the books, we have a 3-5-8-2 build. Caleb Williams, T-Law, Tua. Solid QB room, right?
Yup, you're betting on bounce back for Tua. Caleb gets the best setup he's had. Trevor gets probably the best offensive-minded coach. And year 2 of Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter will be there I think Travis Hunter's more to free up BTJ to really thrive, because last year you could just key in on him when Trevor is in the lineup. So that gives you a few options, and these QB2 at value is pretty good. So
we got at the running back spot, Derrick Henry, Kenneth Walker, Jalen Warren, Tank Bigsby, Eckler. 5 guys who are going to get some varying degrees of projectable volume, from superstars to, guys in some kind of split. But I feel pretty good that we have 5 contributors at the running back position.
Yep. Henry, his age is a concern, but as a pure runner, he was literally 1A, 1B with Saquon Barkley in basically any metric of efficiency. The Ravens were the best offensive environment he's ever been in. And Ken's a little more up and down, but an elite talent if he stays healthy. And we have some boring guys to kind of cover the back end in case for those Ken Walker more downside weeks as well.
And now you have arguably the most important incentive in Derrick Henry's contract. If he gets 2,000 yards, he gets to be in an Adam Sandler movie. So, you can't discount how much that's going to mean to the guy. He just got signed to an extension. There's no doubt that they're going to feed that man this year. Wide receiver, we have Nico Collins, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, Jaden Reed, Darius Slayton, Tyler Lockett, and Yoshi Voss. Some hamstrings, some wrists, but if things break our way health-wise, this room is cooking.
Absolutely. Nico has been so elite on a per-game basis. Tyreek is 2 years removed off an 1,800-yard season. We'll see what happens with his wrist and some of the off-field crap that he's going through, but he's at that price at 35 is crazy. That I have not seen that. Devontae's in the best offensive environment that he's been in a few years now. We kind of forget that sometimes, but he was with the Raiders and Jets, and the McVay offense. The line is supposed to be a bit better for Matthew Stafford there. Puka will take a lot of the pressure away from Devontae to be the guy. So from an efficiency standpoint, he's a very good click. And that offense, I think, is going to be very, very strong.
No doubt. And then, man, Tyler Lockett just refusing to die. Hopefully, he is out there running some routes. And then, tight end, we bring it together with Evan Ingram and Mason Taylor. Just a gross two tight end room that works only if you've really played the Eliminator before and you're like, you got to sacrifice something a little bit. And, we're going to just be beating the brakes off people at running back, receiver, getting 22 to 25 a week from a quarterback. And we're like, hey, we're not shooting ourselves in the foot at tight end with guys who get like 2-point games. We're getting target. We have
Yeah,
two
you're
guys who
chasing
might.
targets. That's, I think,
Exactly.
the word here is Ingram's going to get targets. There are a decent amount of mouths to feed if you're on the Vele hype train. That's a slight concern, but he'll still get fed in this offense. They have one of the best lines, so he doesn't have to stay in to block very much. Not that that's what he was brought in to do. Mason Taylor so far we think is the second target earner in this group, unless they sign someone. Please sign Amari Andrew Keenan for other purposes, but so far that hasn't happened. So far that has not happened. So Mason Taylor's your classic, old school, good, smooth route running tight end. I think he'll develop right away as a safety blanket for Justin Fields. And just from pure volume, these guys are pretty floor oriented to kind of back up some of the high upside of these receivers.
You down to pop in one more of these 20 seconds?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's run it. Yeah, Mason Taylor is just, he might be the guy you need at tight end late this year. Not because he's even like that special. He seems pretty decent, but he might just be like the 18th best, 19th best tight end in the league, but getting a lot of routes and a lot of targets. And, that's kind of what I want to sign up for at that point. I get people are into the Cade Ottens and the Dalton Schultzes and, there could be touchdown equity, but it's like you're competing with alphas for targets. And I get Garrett Wilson's there, but beyond that, Justin Fields is going to need some sort of safety blanket. And, it just seems to make so much sense for Mason Taylor having like a sneaky, like 770 yards or something like that.
And a lot of catches, those still count for points. And
they do.
Routes and targets for the tight ends are more important than any other position. Speaking of Cade Otton, when all the injuries happened, when Mike Evans with his hamstring, Chris Godwin, what was it, an ankle or a knee? Cade Otton was getting fed targets and going absolutely off. But before that, he's kind of an afterthought because there are 3-4 mouths to feed. They took Igbukah in the first round for a reason. Jalen McMillan is no slouch. So you need targets to thrive as a tight end. Even if Mason Taylor isn't that efficient, even if Justin Fields holds the ball for too long behind the pocket and isn't processing well, if he's throwing to Mason enough that he's a top 14, 15 target earner, he could finish it as a back end high tight end 2, back end 1.
And when you say if Justin Fields isn't processing well, I believe what you mean is when he's not processing well.
Because I'm trying to be nice, like I got
an inevitability.
The Bears hoodie over here trying to.
We actually have the first overall pick here. Are you a Jamar Chase guy, or if we don't get one of these running backs, would you be a Saquon Bijan guy?
I think Chase.
Okay.
I do feel differently.
I'm down to run it. I'm toying with different things there, but I'm like, do I want to really fully fade Chase? No, probably not. I do think it gets a little interesting in the Eliminator, but I'm also down to take some chances with it and then just hope like you get Bucky to fall to you because the ADP it lines up your favorite guy at 24.
That's tough. We're in. No, we will not take Chase. I will not take Chase Brown. I will sign off this.
I'll let this team die before.
Just FYI, I know you do the same. If I did the same, but we're not chasing no Brown. None of that. No, absolutely not.
No chasing Chase. We will hope that sometimes I've done one Eliminator where I had Jamar Chase and I think I got Bucky to fall to me like a miracle. So that is pretty sweet.
I guess that would necessitate closer to get 3 to 4 in the 4, 5, 6, 7 turns and kind of fill those Harvey, Walker, Connor, Jones, Pollard, that type.
Yeah. push come to shove, even if he can get like a Chuba, that would be nice.
Bucky is so awesome, by the way. You study some of the advanced stats and like everything he does well. Because you're some of the running backs can run, some of the running backs can catch. Bucky can do both.
100%. The only thing he's lacking is like that real top end speed of it. It's like I don't really care about that because he's still got enough speed, and he's just so shifty, so great at breaking tackles, really more so eluding tackles. And he's just got insane burst at the line of scrimmage. So he's coming out, he's getting the ball, he's decisive, he knows exactly what he wants to do, and he's not waiting, and he's hitting the hole hard with crazy burst. So he's to me like a borderline top 5 running back IRL.
If you could make the argument, probably 6 or 7.
Yeah,
I would think. Well, outside of the Miami offense, I think I'd take him over Achan. I'd probably stop with CMC and Henry. Yep. So maybe 6. This could. Oh, Tony.
I don't know. It's looking a little bleak for us.
And I mean, AJ falling there is wild too.
Yeah. Yeah, get ready to learn Chase Brown, T. Higgins. This team is dead, buddy.
You think it's Jover right now?
No, we're good. We're good. But we can't take Chase Brown or T. Higgins.
Would you go Josh Allen here? Is that too? Because he's 27.
I would consider it. Let's see. Is there any fun? Would you want to have any fun and pull up Breece Hall?
I'm fine with that.
W. Let's do it.
He does worry me. Would you take Rashi of the other guys, or you're too Bengals heavy if you go T, right?
Well, and the other issue with Rashi is the week 10 bye for me.
That's right.
How do you feel about? I'm just going to spam names. Tyreek again, JSN, Terry, Mike Evans, DJ Moore. Just kind of flip the board a little bit. Anything?
And any of them, all these week 10 guys.
Get a little. JSN is a pretty good eliminator ass pick. Where again in BBM, I don't know if he's going to have the slight breaking upside, but I think he's going to get like 170 targets, and you like that in an eliminator. You know, him just peppering your lineup every week with those 13, 15-point games. And to me, this tier is so flat in many ways.
Yeah, it's a weird.
I don't mind flipping the board and getting a little unique.
T, as we talked about, a lot of injury problems, and you don't want to overglaze the Bengals. Or you have to draft like 7, 8 receivers minimum.
BBM, different story. Give me Jamar Chase, Rice, and T. Higgins, and we'll make it work. You can need a 90-point week. You can't need a 90-point week in this. You're dead.
And then you go running back, maybe. Well, these quarterbacks are kind of flying off the board.
Maybe a little Joe Burrow action, a little Jalen Hurts.
Oh, Burrow, yeah, that's right. You never know. Sometimes there are some S tier haters in some of these rooms. You never know.
There are, and at our other turns, we'll have guys we like. Like if we got Kyler at 96, that's totally fine in the eliminator. Because the thing is, like the week if you have Burrow and Jamar Chase the same week they're out, it's like damn, the team's looking interesting to say the least.
So would you more uncorrelate, or because it's a single stack?
My hot take is I don't want to correlate my QB1 and wide receiver 1 because the week they're out, you feel really bad. I get why you would want to, but Joe Burrow at like 48 already feels like a bad pick.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot.
Like I almost, because I think Jamar Chase is going to hit either way. I like Jalen Hurts more on a Jamar Chase.
Oh, Jalen Hurts is so live. He's amazing.
Only in this format would I like Hurts more with Chase than, Burrow, because again, like Jamar Chase is out. It's like, damn, we're hurting for points. Okay, but Hurts is holding us down with like a 30 piece,
And Hurts just seems underrated. His volume was super low. He had a bunch of injuries. And there he goes, of course. Thank you, White Sox, 8884. Shark.
Anything else here as we approach it seem interesting to you?
Where does Kittle Tet's probably Well, you do have two pretty safe receivers, but I feel like you're pushing either the running backs, maybe a running back and Kittle.
I'd be down for that.
Just kind of go a little more overall
Because I
board,
think
spread
we'll
it
like the
around.
receivers at that next turn a lot.
And we have two
Um,
pretty good ones already, and there's a long ways to go. I would Chuba Kittle for me.
how about
If you prefer Kamara, that's fine, but
just
or do
because
you
the
think
week
Kamara's better?
14s, multiple week 14s, would you want to go Kamara Kittle?
Yeah, that's fine.
I just like to try to spread them out.
Kittle, okay.
Nice. So we got
Okay,
Brees
so
Hall,
you're
Alvin
really into
Kamara.
spreading out these buys like very heavy because
So heavy.
14 is a little bit of an advantage, but obviously you don't want to. If you lose week 14, you still are left in the dirt, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, once you get, sure, I guess if we get to week 14, you're pretty happy because you made some money, but it's like, dude, I'm trying to win this thing. I'm not like
Yeah, I get
spamming all
it.
these entries to like shoot myself in the foot and die out in week 14. I'm trying to win like 200 grand here.
I
Um,
understand. No, I
and
get it. This is
and
we're
dude,
going for upside.
injuries, dude. Like I know we all forget, but next thing you know, Donald Parham tears his Achilles, and Amon-Ra St. Brown's getting his knee cleaned out, and Tyreek Hill has got a thing. It's like you're trying to thread the thinnest of needles, and some of these players are going to get hurt. My finals team last year, Chris Godwin was my wide receiver too, and he missed half the year.
Jeez.
I only survived
Yeah, because
because I perfectly
you
layered.
go in with Rashi, no injury history, thinking, "Oh, I just nailed the stud in Pat Mahomes' offense," and
Yep.
lo and behold, snap your finger. It's still football. This is a physical game. You'd go running back if as long as it doesn't go unless it's a pretty hard green run over here.
Yeah, I think we might get a guy that we like falling back to us. Aaron Jones at 72 would feel pretty gross, but Tony Pollard would be great.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones again, like he's gonna miss like 2 or 3 games, and it's like, damn, that kind of blows. And he's like priced up a full round over BBM, which I just don't get.
Yeah, I do like his value in BBM, and the line is awesome. But this could easily be Jordan Mason's backfields. That's the scare because Jordan Mason was, I think, 4th in yards over expected in terms of rushing last year. He had some really bad luck at the goal line, and he's a much better goal line back than Aaron Jones is. And Aaron Jones is a bit up and down as a runner in terms of production. So that would at 72 is a little tough. I don't think Pollard's going to make it.
Yeah, probably not past this guy.
Yeah, probably one receiver. Yeah, or Judy. It feels like after the Godwin is a little questionable for week 1, right? That's why he's lower.
Yeah, it seems like a smidge questionable. Okay, all right. Come on,
I mean,
House
he
of
is a good
Orange.
player, so I do get it from that standpoint and the team environment,
Oh
but
fuck this
there's a
guy.
consistency.
I don't mind Judy either as just like a yardage spam guy. Like he had 1,200 yards with
There's
half the
also
year of Deshaun
Judkins would be the
Watson.
running back there.
You want to go Judkins first?
Yeah,
And
I think you like him over Caleb, right?
it's fine. I
Or what about Jacoby or Shakir? Shakir's really good too.
I'm down for Shakir to mix up the bye weeks a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, it's good you're keeping track of that because my sort of filter is always like who's the player who's going to beat ADP, and there is this huge strategic component. That's why these contests are unique. This is Eliminator. It's not another contest. It's not Greyhound. It's not.
And I watch all these other like Eliminator drafts, and like the people are doing them. All the power to them. It's their first year doing the Eliminator heavy, and they're like, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's like, dude, it's a 3-man final. You'd want to beat out 196,000 other people. And like, you think you're going to do that by like not being a psycho about buys? Like who's going to be the 3 teams that are left? You need a lot of things to go right to be the last 3 out of 196,000. The guy who gets there is going to be the psycho who layers the buy components.
Yeah,
perfectly.
we got to get a running back. Just speaking of that, because Brees and Judd, but
Judkins,
I thought Judkins was the last of that tier.
He's just so good that it's worth it to me.
Yeah, he's just the last guy of that tier because I'm pretty worried about Caleb. It just seems like it's not a good offensive line, not a great offense. He's splitting time. Najee is better than we think as a player, which he might be a decent. I don't know what his buy situation is, but.
And Kamara is such a dog, like he can hold us down in a little bit of a weaker week 9. I would want to keep attacking running back if we get good options here, just to like have something we like whether that's like a Mason or a Tracy, guys who have touchdown upside or pass catching upside.
Any of those three, Mason, Harris. I think Najee, that's the best offensive line Najee's ever had. Yes, Omari and Hampton is going to be a priority, but is that a full transition? But week 9 is borderline. If we had 2 week 5s, Najee would be a turbo smash. Yeah, because I don't think Hampton's going to take it over by week 5. I think by week 10, it's borderline.
And that's that next level of thinking where you're like, okay, like what's the story I'm telling myself, even when these buys happen? Like, oh, this buy happens early October, like you said, versus like early November. So it's kind of fun to think about it that way. But again, those are like the micro edges that can be the thing that takes you over the top. It's really hard to win and make it far in this contest.
Absolutely.
Let me just queue up some wide receivers we'd also probably like. That workout by Ayuk, I'm like nuking in this contest. I'm like, I don't even see his name there.
He could just be Jonathan Brooks.
Right. Exactly. Literally. And it's like, I don't even care if he's like the wide receiver 1 overall, which he's not going to be, of course, from like November on. It's like, I'm not even going to get there. So hopefully we could hit some of these quarterbacks just because they're values and we know quarterbacks go earlier in this contest.
Yeah. What do you think about Baker? Baker seems to be the most. He just went.
Kyler's got the.
Like they're watching us.
I kind of like Tracy and whoever your quarterback of choices between Kyler, Nix, Purdy, anything. Hopefully Tracy
Purdy of that group maybe, but it's close. Kyler and Purdy are kind of like 1A, 1B for me. Tracy feels like the last of in 14, right? Yeah, so
that's perfect.
You do have week 8 with JSN as a quarterback. Purdy's 14. I don't know if you feel differently about any of the other guys.
Let's see. Grab Tracy here. I'm seeing if like other guys we would realistically get later. I mean, maybe we get Drake May week 14 at the next bye.
So you like Kyler then?
We could go Purdy if you wanted to. I just think we could maybe go Kyler May. But
that's fine. Because I do like both of those players. It's just if you're getting 2 week 14s.
Whereas there's like no week 8 bye at the next turn that we would realistically worry about, like Dak.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to invest in the backups because Kyler is very up and down. His upside is amazing, and you can knock out a really good team. With that said, he has real downsides, and if Kyler's kind of out of rhythm and getting hit a lot, he's really scary. So as long as you locked, it's almost a pre-May type of mentality. But
this feels like Jamar Chase gives you so many outs to like a little bit of a thinner receiver room because he like hits your lineup every week. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, 51% advance rate. In PDM, I think.
And JSN is like a perfect, like if you're attacking everything else like we have, like quarterback, running back, tight end, JSN is just like a perfect like anchor, steady, kind of like what like for my team last year, Jerry Jeudy proved to be. Like, so my wide receiver 1 on that team made the finals was Marvin Harrison. Terrible pick. Wide receiver 2, Chris Godwin. So you're like, how does this team make the finals?
Shows you can make mistakes though.
You can make mistakes. You can run bad on injuries. Like Marv was a terrible pick, but we had Jordan Addison, spikes. We had Jerry Jeudy, a spike or so, but more so like just the consistent yardage. Jalen McMillan took over as Chris Godwin went down. You had Yoshi Voss, you had Jalen Naylor kind of just chipping in those crappy scores that are good enough in the Eliminator if you have everything else kind of settled. So I kind of like how these rooms go. when we attack everything and then have like an anchor, like a hero wide receiver feels kind of fun, low key.
And at least to go against the sort of common discourse, there's always one position you're fading a little bit, and I just love Kittle as a value. I think he's close to McBride in terms of value. He's also played and been healthy the last couple of years. That's a big narrative with Kittle, that he's just an injury prone guy. You don't sign someone to a 4-year 76 if he's kind of on edge to just get hurt all the time, and
Right.
it just seems like they're due for a bounce back.
100%. And we could lock up a decent tight end too and call it a day eventually at tight end, like at the 144 range. It would be nice to get Dak or Herbert here, I think.
That would be so nice.
Trying to manifest the Herbert.
Yeah, at least one of them. At least you said and. You didn't say both. So
I need either of them. Rashid, Shaheed, if we could get like a 16. Yeah. I know you're not the biggest fan, but he's having a good camp, it seems like, and just okay. And of course he goes. This guy's not going to take Herbert.
Burns worrisome. Kirk is just a total snooze. Okay, it's Herbert.
This guy takes his third quarterback on a Josh Allen team. Okay, it's a little sus. Justin Herbert for sure for me.
Yeah, it's a big teardrop after that.
How do you feel about Christian Kirk as projectable wide receiver volume? Any of these running backs?
Oh, these receivers
I think wide receivers. Are you a Kyle Williams or a Kirk guy? Burden feels like dead.
Kyle is okay. He's more late season. If you think the rest of the guys can hold it down.
Yeah, you could do him.
Kirk is just they drafted two guys that it just feels like he's gross. I don't know if it's like draft fatigue or whatever it is, but he was only traded for 7th. It just something just worries me that Noel or Higgins is just going to take his lunch, and he's just a total nothing.
That's totally fair.
So
I kind of like him as a projectable volume click, but not so much over. I think he's like a Kyle Williams level bet, so I'm happy to go the other way on that one for sure.
It's just a tricky range. Mims is too streaky for this format.
For this cost, yeah,
and this cost.
We're like we need some guys who can like set a bit of a floor a little bit. Like give me. Marvin Mims, he can have like the 20 burgers and then he can go like a month of 0 points. It's like if I want that, give me Alec Pierce, give me Darius Slayton, and I think he has like kind of a capped target like capacity. He's just never going to run in 2 wide receiver sets, in my opinion. It seems like it'll either be like Sutton and Vele or Sutton and Pat Bryant, and then he might dominate.
It's just game to game. He thrives off deep passes. He's one of the best deep threats. It's like Alec Pierce.
Right.
It's like Alec Pierce in a slightly better offensive environment.
No doubt about it. So we'll have some interesting choices potentially to make at this next turn. Could lock up QB3, although, Daniel Jones late, maybe that gets us there. If there's a running back we like here or a tight end, we feel like we can call it a day with the tight ends.
We still got Loveland's there. I mean, he's more of a late season, but
I don't think Mims will fall to us, but that'd be kind of cool at 144.
Besh too. Besh actually feels like, because we have a thinner room. I don't know if you feel between those two, but Besh doesn't seem like they're taking anyone else. Geno's one of the better pocket quarterback, supposed to at least be close to a league average type of offensive line environment. Genty will get targets, but it's really Bowers. Jacoby isn't a crazy target hog that Besh is going to be this afterthought. So
no, Jack Besh seems like he's going to just be starting in 2 wide receiver sets, isn't he? It's kind of crazy.
100 targets, 70 catches, 750, 6-7 TDs.
I mean, you wouldn't have to twist my arm to do Jaden Blue or Tank Bigsby here either.
Tank's pretty. Oh, we have back-to-back, so what about Tank?
Hey, I don't mind, just if the market ends up making me have 50% Tank in the Eliminator, so be it. Such is life,
I have so much of him. It's just he has great pure rushing numbers. The other guys are, well, ETN was great 2 years ago. So that's who I would go unless you want a QB3.
I think we definitely do Bashir. Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of just go Bigsby.
It just seemed. I was like,
It's just
unless you want a quarterback, I mean, what do you want? What do you want us to do? Like,
I guess I'm just gonna take like a running back one potentially might be, and the most ascending offense in the league. I guess if you want me to take this year's, you know, Bucky, or maybe not Bucky, but like 80% of a Bucky, I guess I'll do it.
yeah, he's like a very good pure runner from what I remember. There's so many guys, but from that as a power runner, he was very effective and the best in his room by far. But Tutin's more of a receiving back, explosive guy, and at that price, he could be the starter easily. It really depends what Liam Cohen thinks. I think you draft Tutin to take away the ETN snaps. That's my read of the room.
Right. Yeah, they
And Tank is kind of unique in his, and same with LeQuint. LeQuint is a receiving back.
I watched like this little like 8-minute video, or some less than 10-minute video, where one of the Jags beat writers was interviewing the running backs coach from the Jags, and he was like talking about ETN, and he was like, yeah, ETN, and then he was like, Tank, yeah, he's like, Tank, like, yeah, he's like, and then the one thing he lit up when he said about Tank was like, oh, like, yeah, he's been like putting in crazy work on his body, like really taking care of it, like total monster in terms of like strength and conditioning and stuff. And then he talked about Tootin. He's like, yeah. And then he like lit up when he talked about Tootin. I was like, okay, that's interesting that he was like,
I think it's those two. I think it's to me, it's obvious. ETN
because
has enough name value to get traded. Let's glaze him up, send him somewhere. He could be useful in a different system, but so here's one fun Tank stat that'll make you happy and feel better. In terms of, so they have models on, the NFL has a model on what you're expected based on the blocking, how you are as a runner, and Tank ranked 8th in the National Football League on run over expected per attempt. 8th.
That's insane.
Right,
to be
with
getting
Josh
that at
Jacobs.
this cost. Yeah, to get that. And when you watch him playing the games, I mean, I know a lot of people weren't waking up at 9:30 a.m. to watch London Jags games, but we're sickos over here. We're watching that, and he was a monster, man. And so I guess in like conclusion, my takeaway from watching that video was like, of course, like the speed guy is going to stand out, without pads, like over Tank, but like ETN's also supposed to be a speed guy, so like I feel like Tank has his own lane carved out. And then it's like ETN versus Tootin for like the speed roll.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
The guy was like,
exactly.
The guy was lighting up about Tootin, not ETN. So the way I'm falling on it is like, you're going to get a Thunder and Lightning, Bigsby, Tootin thing. ETN, a couple snaps here and there, but nothing significant.
And there is the receiving work. Tank is, as a pure runner, is really, really good. As a receiver, not so hot, but we've seen like Chuba Hubbard didn't catch. Chuba Hubbard only had 180 receiving yards or something in that range, and he was the breakout guy of the year. Tank also had plus on inside and outside runs, so he's not just this. Sometimes you hear his name and you're just like, you just run Tank up the middle, but actually he's good on inside outside runs.
100%. I'm a big Tillman Glazer.
I think so at this price.
Are you also a Wandale guy? Are you an RB6 guy? Because we started a little. What are you feeling?
Like, because we have the double buy, maybe Rico. Unless you like Braylon.
I kind of like it.
Yeah. Wandale just seems like it. You're going to talk about in 5 years. Like, remember when Wandale Robinson caught 95 passes or whatever? He was like 8th or 9th in the league in targets. That's just not going to happen again.
And he didn't even hit 700 yards, if you can believe it. Now, he had 699, but he did not have 700, and there's a difference.
To need that, it's great to earn targets, but to need that many targets is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like almost, it was damn near a record of like inefficiency. And it's like
And
through no fault of his own because he's like 5'4".
yeah, and they have like a good chunk of analytics folk over there, and someone is going to say at some point, hey guys, like we're throwing 120 plays at Wandale and it's generating us essentially nothing. Why don't we shift that to Neighbors, shift that to Slayton, or run the ball? And it just seems like it's a total fluke and an anomaly to me. And then as it is size and build to stay healthy it's asking a lot. Let's put it that way.
No doubt about it. So this team is interesting. We have the 2 quarterbacks, 6 running backs. I don't know if I feel comfortable with this receiver room fully, and then George Kittle. So definitely 2 tight ends. I guess the question is quarterback 3
Who's still
or
available? It's
wide
just
receiver
Rodgers.
8.
Oh, Rodgers is gone. You have to go 2 quarterback. I think everyone's gone.
Yeah, you have like Shuck and Jones, but it's like if
Jones,
you're like
you could
betting on
justify.
if you're betting on like a thing to break right for you, one of the easiest things you can bet on is like my 2 quarterbacks stay healthy.
Yeah.
Whereas like if Jamar like the Jamar Chase bye week, it's like JSN, Khalil Shakir, like bruh.
Receivers don't give you most receivers outside of Jamar Chase don't give you these top 12 weeks consistently. That's why you have to spread it out over many people.
Yeah, so I think we spam this room with some volume at receiver to close out, and you know,
See
of
a
course,
tight end, obviously.
a tight end, yeah, like Kate Otten, just not a week 14 bye guy, which stinks because I love Dio Johnson, but I think Kate Otten would be like a perfect, boring.
Is Terrence Ferguson gone?
I don't think so, but man,
He's maybe last
he,
round if you want to wait like that. But he is a little risky. But
he feels
they were
kind of
willing to take him first round. Maybe he's more of a BBM pick, which I understand.
yeah.
And we still have time, so I'd probably
He was a
probably
second rounder, right? But anyway, I
receiver here, probably right.
Yeah. Do we go like Douglas or Slayton again?
Yeah, I mean those are 2 pretty good clicks.
Yeah, we need a little
Slayton
spreadability.
definitely. You could go any of those guys. Those first front 4.
Let's see. Someone that we don't have too many bye weeks overlapping. Hopkins. Do we go Keenan Allen for like a Steelers thing? Maybe, I don't know. Do you have a favorite of these touchdown
Or
boomers?
Jets. It would be Steelers or Jets would be my Keenan. Hopkins is a pretty safe guy. Sure. Keenan's the upside play though in this big of a field. So we have one more pick. It would have to be tight end, right?
Tight end, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This wide receiver room I can sleep at night with. You know,
you have a lot of guys. Shakir is a pretty elite floor guy. His per catch rates, his yak out over expected are really good. At some point, they got to just play him a little more. Yeah, they signed Josh Palmer, but who else are you throwing to? The Kincaid experiment.
Elijah Moore, bro. Come on, man. It's Elijah Moore.
That's true. That's true. Some Ole Miss.
We're going to fall for this again.
Some Ole Miss.
Because we're idiots.
Stan's going to follow me. Back when I was at Michigan, dude. This Ole Miss guy followed me in a car and said Ole Miss was going to whoop our butts. But unfortunately for him, Ole Miss was not on the schedule. So too bad. I don't know what that guy was on.
This was a Devon Vele team.
You think so?
But
we need a tight end. You can't Kittle.
Oh yeah, no, not at this point. Right at the Keenan.
That would be standing on some heavy Devon Vele business.
Fuck it, bro. I don't give a fuck, man. No, the answer to Keenan Allen versus DeAndre Hopkins was Devon Vele. That's what I'm
Hopkins can still play. There's just so many guys. That's the problem over there.
Damn.
I guess Theo's the safer click. I mean, you could go Conklin.
Do we go? Do we stand on insane business and just say week 14 at tight end? Fuck it.
Oh no! Because no, we had a whole rant. Then Elijah or Ferguson.
I can't do Ferg, unfortunately, man. I don't even think he starts over Higbee. Like that's where I'm at.
Oh, this Higbee, that's tough. They were willing to draft him first round. Arroyo, if you want to go the coach speak route, that's probably the safer click. Noah Gray if you're fading Kelsey because at
it's
some point he has to take over.
it's balancing like, do I actually want to get points at tight end too? This
Ferg's
is
definitely
a
be the
very
next play.
interesting. Yeah, man, I see. I think Terrence Ferguson gets like 195 yards this year
I think he's going to play.
over Higbee.
They are glazing him out at the wazoo.
Hit me with coach speak, brother.
They said they were willing to take him 26 until Atlanta gives them an offer they can't refuse. And this environment, you can in a McVay offense, you can Ben Skoranek ate in this offense when he played. But Arroyo's a very talented. That's a verified coach speak click. There's a lot of room for growth in that Seattle offense. Either one, I'm totally cool with. Any of these other guys?
Stand on business. Elijah, Ferguson, or Komet?
Elijah, probably. Ferguson is the funner click.
Ferguson for me is going to be a like wait and see personally, just to kind of see how we roll down the stretch in like July and August. If we start getting some good buzz, I'm kind of more into it. But in the Eliminator, especially at tight end, I just want routes, and I feel like there's a guarantee for Elijah Arroyo to get routes because no fan is so cooked. Not that
either of them are great late rounds. They're just not getting talked about.
The Rams are just like yeah, and they both have upside. Tyler, it's like the McVay thing of, he might just defer to the vet in year one. But I could absolutely see Terrence Ferguson, surprising me in July and August, or maybe not surprising me, but just like winning it out. But I would just feel so bad to not have routes there. I could see paying off for
definitely
sure.
On the way out. I just think that's the bet that I see like late in the draft. Of course, because it's Eliminator, because it's only a 2 build, you want the guy that you feel is on a more secure path to playing time. We don't know what's going to happen with Komet. He could just be a 6 offensive tackle. But Higbee's pretty brutal I think he's going to start.
And, on this team, we already made a JSN bet. And, you can kind of just say, hey, we're betting on Seattle's offense to be a little more fun than people think. And, you get JSN and Elijah Arroyo capturing a larger pie, a larger piece of the pie than maybe some other wide receiver one and tight end ones would. It'll be interesting. So let's take a look at how this team turned out. Get the old refresh going and get this team labeled. That was an interesting build.
Yeah, Eliminator's tricky, man. You definitely need reps in this thing.
I think we're set up well for some early season success, and you just hope things bank your way. I think we navigated the positions in an interesting way. We got Kyler and Herbert, 2 guys who could definitely put up some points. I typically go 3 quarterback, but just the way the pockets fell, I think we can make it work if Kyler has a breakout year. If the Chargers sustain some of their passing stuff from later in the year last year.
Yeah, do you have 2 very strong guys that usually it can break? It's enough. I think the QBs did get a little overclicked and overdrafted, some of them, so you just kind of have to flow to the board. And we did get values on both these guys from ADP. So
RB, we get Brees Hall, Kamara, Judkins, Tracy, Bigsby, and Dowdle. A lot of bodies to throw at it, a lot of pass catchers, some guys with some juice. I feel pretty decent about that.
That's a really good room. That's a really strong room. That's probably my favorite room of this team.
Yeah, we're going to be getting a lot of points there, and that's going to be kind of holding us down. We need those Brees spikes. We need a couple of Kamara 30 burgers. And then all these other guys are going to mix in just having touchdown weeks. Like we're going to be getting RB in the flex all the time.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun. And God forbid, Chuba gets hurt. Dowdle's going to go crazy. Wide receiver, Jamar Chase is our hero. JSN is our volume anchor at the 2. Shakir also a pretty decent volume anchor. And then you're hoping Kyle Williams gets routes. Jack Besh gets routes. They both arguably are their wide receiver 2. Their respective teams could be from week 1. Tillman, Slayton, Keenan Allen touchdown threats. As long as Jamar Chase stays healthy, we're going to get like 45, 50 points a week
Yeah.
from this receiver room.
And I think Slayton, Tillman can hold it down until the rookies really get their play. Because I think the first month they're probably going to be longer clicks.
Yeah.
But then late season they'll start to emerge. Kyle late buy as well. So there, and the running back in the flex covers us. Keenan must sign. Amari must sign. But it's definitely you have a few. Those first three names are really strong. I really like Shakir this year.
Yeah. And then we could easily see Jack Besh or Kyle Williams having a McConkey light season. Where they ascend. It's like last year was like, well, there's no way Ladd McConkey could out target Josh Palmer. And if you don't believe me that people are saying that, that's what everyone was saying. It's like, well, Ladd McConkey's even going to play in 3 wide receiver sets. It's like, okay. Now, I don't think either of those guys are McConkey level talents, but that is to say that they're in some ambiguous depth charts where they are primed based on what we've seen with coach speak and everything, and talent wise, prospect wise, to take a leap. So I actually feel decent about this room.
Half the deal with the rookies succeeding is the other guys aren't good. JSN was one of the best talents. He outproduced Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave at Ohio State. And year one Waldron, because you have DK, you have a younger Lockett, doesn't matter. But a Besh, a Kyle Williams, they're not competing with these top-end players in a loaded receiver room, so they can easily get onto the field if they show enough upside.
Totally. And then we bring it all together with a fun tight end room of George Kittle, maybe this year's tight end 1. He was last year's tight end 1. And Elijah Arroyo, who, it would be nice for them to cut Noah Fant any day now. But once that happens, and it seems like it should happen because they could save a lot of money doing it, Elijah Arroyo is no longer pick 216. He's going where Brenton Strange did. He's going where Mason Taylor does. So pretty fun.
Yeah, and they're insanely glazing Elijah Arroyo to the point that they said he was like a top 15 talent. At some point, I get there's like hyping up your guys, but there's no agenda here because he's not a trade candidate. Because that's a classic, right? You glaze a guy, trade him, and to raise the value. But they just drafted him, so
no, they're basically
that far,
like,
especially a young person, you want to be a little more. Hey, like you're not much. Like you got to earn your way in this team in this world. It's like so. It's definitely interesting.
They're like, nah, call a spade. The whole world knows Noah Fant's bad. We're not going to be able to trade him. It is what it is. So we might as well glaze our up and coming, maybe next Darren Waller ? Some are saying.
If they can block for Sam Darnold, I think it's possible. That's the big. The thing with JSN's a floor guy more so in that offense because if the line for Seattle is bad, he'll just throw it to JSN quick, and he can eat off a 10 for 90 or 100 type of game. For Arroyo to really work, they'll have to at least block enough because Sam Darnold can throw and wants to throw deep, but if there are guys coming in his grill like type of thing, then he's going to be under some major pressure. So
yeah, Arroyo
said something very pause-worthy, but I got myself.
So. Well, I'm about to say a crazy take, and I'm not making a player comp at all, but just in terms of the depth of the field they operate, you could see Arroyo getting some of the ADOT that like Justin Jefferson got, just in terms of you could be getting like the 17-yard targets down the field, whereas like a lot of tight ends are not really stretching the seam like that, getting targeted deeper than the receivers do. But like MVS is like the pure just like spam a deep target like twice a game. But JSN and Cup are not like real vertical field stretchers, whereas like Arroyo could be like getting some Metcalf type snaps. Like he is in some ways like a receiver. And I don't mean in like a Kyle Pitts, but I mean like the guy's like a dog. He's huge, he's strong, he's fast. He could get some Sam Darnold wants to just like uncork one and he'll be there.
Yeah, I think Justin Jefferson is obviously out of context is crazy glaze. Metcalf is closer. I think at peak Waller, they would just have him on one side and the receivers on the other side and just let him cook one on one
Yeah.
as kind of a true X receiver. And I guess that's the vision that's how I see it. And for some of the real young ones watching, to peak Darren Waller was ridiculous. So I'm going to.
And last year, and we have the Clint Kubiak signing. He's the offensive coordinator in Seattle, coming over from the Saints last year. Not a single guy on the team like really consolidated the work, but you add up the Foster Moreau work, you add up the Jawan Johnson work, you add up the Taysom Hill work. He's his own thing, but um, there's a lot of receiving volume in that offense to go to tight ends, and if you can get it mostly to Elijah Arroyo, a little bit to like AJ Barner or something, get Noah Fant out of the picture, uh, it could be a valuable role in this offense.
100%. And there's just the skill set, as you kind of touched on as well. They'll make it work for Arroyo, at least to give him an opportunity as a second round pick. They could have went they have a lot of needs on the team. They could have easily went line or a defensive slot, and they chose to go with him. So they definitely, this is the last pick too. This isn't a round 15, around 13, 14, 15 type of click. Darren Waller, his peak, he had 1,100-yard seasons, just as a reference if they really go that direction. In terms of the talent, of course, he has to develop and do all that, but these tight ends are growing faster than our mom and pop's tight ends. This is a different NFL we're in, and this tight end class was very, very strong.
The things they're putting in the water and the food these days, you're getting Elijah Arroyos in a world where you used to get, Brent Sellicks. So,
and Brent Selleck, Cincinnati Bearcats, that was a decent guy. Not the fastest guy, but
no, not the fastest.
He knew the scheme.
He was a gym rat. He was scrappy. He checked a lot of boxes for sure. But
on the field.
That'll do it for that team. Couple fun eliminators in the books. Do you have a favorite between the first and the second one we did?
Let's get a quick refresher on the.
Had that 3-5-8-2 cooking on the first one.
That receiver room first one. Of course, you love a chase team. That receiver room plus Henry is pretty lit.
The way the pockets fell in this room, I think we cooked with that one. I think both ones have a shot.
59 is Ken Walker 59 is like low-key diabolical.
It really is. I think he went pretty early in the second one. So I like the first one a little bit more, but I think we made the best of both situations. It's a little tough with the 101. Now with the hindsight of taking Jamar 101, would you have at all considered a deviation for a Saquon or for a Bijan to be able to, grab a Rashee Rice or a T. Higgins, feel a little bit better about it at the 2-3 turn? Or are you still Jamar 101 build like most of America?
It's definitely closer than I thought. I'm trying to see what there's some stat of the top 12 weeks, and Jamar is so far above and beyond the other receivers, which is wild. I think Justin Jefferson will mash him. CD will get close. I think the way when wide receiver 2, 3, and 4, Nico, Puka just had insane efficiency, but the way the other guys had such a bad role, it made Jamar stand out. But from a team build, you could definitely go Saquon or Bijan there. It's just tricky. Once you get those chase opportunities, it's hard. He's 51% BBM advance rate. You just show up with Jamar Chase and 50-50, you're making the playoffs. It's so diabolical. It's really hard to go off of that, but
Jamar Chase go Burr. That is pretty wild. It would just be great if like Bucky would be there at the 2-3 turn, or Jacobs or Taylor, like it is in BBM. When you start looking at Chase Brown, same bye week, or Kyron Williams, it's like starts getting a little interesting, a little hairy. But I think we landed the plane regardless. Shawn, appreciate you pulling up.
Yeah,
as always. And
likewise, this is fun.
We'll be putting out some more episodes shortly. Probably putting out some individual videos on our respective channels as well. So if you're watching this on my channel, go check out Sean's channel. Vice versa.
Yup.
If you're on
So do
Sean's,
both
check
of
out
us.
mine.
Also on X is probably the most popular platform here for all the guys and
Yes,
gals
sir.
tweeting. So those two places, X, YouTube, Sean BF7 on YouTube, Farshi FARSHIFF on X, and
And I haven't gotten around to making the blue sky yet, but it's only a matter of time, before I get on all socials and really cover my bases on all platforms.
start posting our teams on Threads, on Instagram. You just put it through a what is it, a Clarendon filter, and it'll look a lot cooler. So
There you go. I definitely know what that is. And
it's a Family Guy reference, yeah, from the Instagram filter.
and
that was a deep pull. I don't know where that came from. So
that's elite ball knowledge. And on that note, from Shawn, from Sus, we are signing off. Peace.